Okay, so our next speaker is actually here, the guy who was in the accident before, Breaux Walker, so he'll be joining us in just a moment. But you enjoy that last one? Good? All right, so what you're able to do again during the next speaker is you can always visit pollev.com/MAK to ask questions. We'll get those queued up. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Breaux here. I know he's walking forward. And Breaux, you can come on stage with me if you'd like. I'm going to read a little bit about you, and we'll chat for just a couple moments before we get going. But what I'd love to know is a little bit about you before we begin. Why don't you come on up?
Great. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
So why don't you tell everyone who you are, where you're from, what you do.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, my morning's going very well. I woke up with a sore throat, and then I got in a car accident. So I think today's going to get better, I hope, as we go on. So thanks, everyone, for being here. Breaux Walker with Kochava. I won't go into my long history because I'm a really old dude, but I'll start with my blockchain history, if that's all right. I spent a lot of my career in China, and was most recently with a very large Chinese fintech company. And I joined them in 2014, and they had a big blockchain lab in Beijing. And I'd heard of Bitcoin a little bit and a little bit of blockchain, but we had a lab in Beijing, and we actually made an investment in Blockstream. And at that time, that group from 2014 to 2016 built a number of products, and we had two main applications for blockchain at that company. One was for fraud reduction, the other was for fee reduction. And blockchain was very effective at both. So I saw how the technology could be used in those applications, and I think in 2016 we saved several $100 million using blockchain. So got into it and was going to start my own company. When Charles at Kochava said, I ran into him last summer at a conference, and he said, "No, you're not going to do that, bro. You're going to join our company, and you're going to apply this knowledge that you have towards the advertising industry, because advertising is a $200 billion industry where, if I'm being generous, 100 billion of that is completely wasted. Some people would say 150 billion of that is completely wasted. So we have a large industry where there's a tremendous amount of waste that goes on due to lack of transparency and inefficiency. So I joined Kochava, and we have a project called Xchng, where we have a massive and very lofty goal to put the entire digital advertising industry onto blockchain so that people can track exactly where their spend is going. When they're sending a mobile ad or a digital ad, they know exactly who's actually receiving it or who sent that ad. There's a lot of players in the industry today who are taking tolls and doing things that are not necessarily what the advertiser sort of had in mind. So that's our project, Xchng. I'll tell you a little bit about it. I'm not going to bore people too much because this is not a hardcore ad tech in the industry, and anyone here who's been in digital advertising knows that it's quite complex, and it's very much a niche. But I'll more talk about our journey as we've started our building of the product, and then we're doing a SAFT. So this gentleman before me talked about compliance. There's a lot of moving parts. For me, similar to my Chinese company, the main thing is like who's doing something, who actually has a blockchain implementation, and people sort of maybe don't think of IBM as a sexy company, or even Microsoft or Overstock, but the people who are actually doing things in blockchain, who have implementations, to me are the sexiest people in the space, not the people writing white papers, talking about it. There's way too much talk and not enough product. So our focus is really on getting this product out the door and getting the industry to come and join us in implementation. So I'll let's go through some slides here. Let me see. So just quickly on Kochava. So as I said, we help the largest apps. If you on your phone or you look at in the iOS store or Android store, we The largest apps use us to make sure that they're spending their marketing dollars wisely. So we started in mobile, but we also do other channels in digital, desktop, and even IoT and wearables and whatnot today. But you see, we have a lot of large customers. So we're in that group of, I guess it's rather recent companies that are tokenizing. And Xchng is a subsidiary of Kochava, so it's not part of Kochava, but we have an existing business that's very healthy and thriving. But we saw that the ability for tokens and for blockchain, as I said earlier, to really improve our industry. So we're in that smaller group of existing companies who are doing ICOs. And ours is even, it's even a smaller group. Ours is a B2B play. So we're really not a consumer play, although I'll tell you how each of you, if you want to get involved, what the opportunity is for you to, through our mining model, to make money on our platform. Yeah, this slide, some of my slides are very light, so I apologize for that. This is just, excuse me, showing the size of the industry. We measure actually about $7 billion in ad spend, which sounds like a big number, but as I said, the industry is much bigger. We are one of the larger measurement companies. So when you look at companies doing ICOs or teams, I think you need to look at their background. Our company is a measurement company, so it makes perfect sense for us to be running a ledger, or sponsoring is a better way, because we're not running it. We're sponsoring this ledger. So when Charles, the CEO of Kochava, said he joined me, I really thought about not just the industry, but his background, the team's background. And to the extent that we've been in the measurement business, it made perfect sense for us to use blockchain and to do this open source project. So this is, it's scary that I actually remember this. I've been in the internet since the late 80s, actually, which is even scarier. But this banner ad from Hotwired magazine, I do remember, and that's from 1994. So this is the first digital advertisement that was ever put out. Obviously, since then, there have been a few more. And too many, and a lot of, I think the industry is still struggling to find itself from its early days. And we think that the blockchain and related technologies can really help digital advertising bring home the promise that, in my mind, and as somebody in the industry, I can say, it's not really been fulfilled to date. So again, these slides are a little bit light. So you obviously have somebody who wants to advertise. You have someone who gives them a place to advertise. That's a publisher. When you go on NewYorkTimes.com or ESPN, those are publishers. And the two sides have never really come together. They've never really seen eye to eye, and they have different objectives. And there's never been a very good relationship between those two because of a lot of intermediaries and the fact that the industry, the people getting them together, never really had the end users' real goals in mind. They really wanted to just sort of enrich themselves and had other goals. So this is, there's usually 6 between an advertiser. If I'm Procter & Gamble and you're ESPN, ESPN.com or your Time magazine, there's usually 6 to 8 intermediaries that actually match us up. And that makes no sense at all, but that's the way it is today. There's people help Procter & Gamble find that space on ESPN or find that space on Time Magazine. Time Magazine, there's people that help Time Magazine find Procter & Gamble's demand for that ad. And there's 6 of them or 8 of them in the middle, excuse me. And as such, there's a lot of opportunity for people to take tolls in between, but the problem is they're not actually like part of the road. They're sort of bandits on the side taking tolls, if you will. So a lot of the money is lost. As I said, $200 billion industry. Some people say $100 billion is just completely wasted. I think the CMO of Procter & Gamble has a much higher number. He says $150 75 billion of that is just, we have no idea who's taking it or what we're getting for it. Again, this slide is too light, but for us, one of the questions we get frequently, unlike I think what the gentleman prior to me said, our industry deals in millions of transactions per second. So our TPS requirements are very, very high. Our ambition is to be able to meet that need. We today don't have the technology to do that, but we're working on it. And as I said, my previous company was an investor in Blockstream, and I saw from 2014 the advantages of side chains. I remember very clearly the meeting where I learned about side chains and sharding and different technologies. So I think early on I saw that the public blockchain and the consensus model was not going to hold up for most enterprise applications because they have much higher performance requirements. So as much as I love the decentralized message, and I am a libertarian, and that's great, and that's fine in some ways, but let's just be real. For most enterprise and business applications, you're going to have some sort of side chain, some sort of permissioned or private blockchain to work. And our industry is definitely one of those. We have as high a transaction throughput requirement as any industry. There's none that has higher. If you think about you guys who are on your phone right now, you're sitting here, people are serving you ads, and multiply yourself by several billion people all over the world and many ads, the requirements are very high. So we've implemented a lot of side chain, a lot of sharding, a lot of different private, permission, however you want to say it, technology, so that our blockchain, our platform works for our industry. The main thing is that people adopt it. If people don't adopt your project, if they don't use it, then why are we even here? There's no point. So I mentioned earlier that we have a mining model. Kochava, we didn't have a mining model before I joined. I said, yeah, we have to have a mining model. At least, it's cool if nothing else. We can say we have miners and mining, whatever. So then it was sort of, what are we going to do for mining? So we've given, everyone knows that our industry is dominated by Facebook and Google, for better or for worse. A lot of people would say the latter. They control the industry. You pretty much have to work with them on their terms. There's no, if you're a small newspaper in a country town, or if you're a big publisher like ESPN or New York Times, you have to work with them on their terms. They dictate all the terms. So most people would say, I'm not saying this, but some people said that's not a very healthy business environment where you have two players that dictate everything in the industry, and you can't say anything to them really against what they're telling you. Here, they tell you how to buy, what your metrics are, who your customers are. If you ask them more information for your customers, they won't give it to you. So you have to kind of just accept. They'll tell you, yeah, your customers are kind of like, are these people, and accept it. That's great. But most people would say, that's, I'd like to know more. And I'd like to actually, ideally, I'd like to own them. I'd like to own the relationship, at least. So what we've done, sorry, let's see. No, come back here. What happened? No, sorry, I went the wrong way. Come on. Sorry about this. So, while I'm getting this back, hopefully, we've created, our mining model is an ad-serving mining model. So, any of you out there that wants to serve ads to anyone, we will set you up as an ad server. Just like Facebook is, just like Google, just like the smaller companies that still exist. I've lost my screen. We will set you up as an ad server so that you may serve ads to, if you have the ability to solve the equation of buyer and seller, we will allow you to earn tokens on Xchng by serving those ads. And besides the fact that that's that's a way for you to earn income. It decentralizes the market. You know, part of, as I said, part of the problem is that Facebook and Google take 95% of the economics in digital advertising. With this, we allow you to set yourself up. I think we lent a little bit from Dash's masternode concept, and if any of you have not heard of masternodes, there's some controversy around them, but essentially what it is that if you're willing to invest in buying a certain amount of Dash coin and setting yourself up as a master node on their system, which means you have a certain amount of critical mass and stability, in other words, you're not trading their coin every day, then they will allow you to take a disproportionate amount of profits from that node. So we actually, this model, we came up with our mining model prior to knowing about Dash's master node model, but there's some corollary there with Dash's node. So what we can do is we set you up as a node on Xchng, and then when an ad is served, and we also give you the technology to be an ad-serving miner, and then you take a monthly dividend for the ads that you serve. So there's obviously no guarantees or whatnot, but you have the ability as a miner to serve these ads. And what it does, more importantly, is it decentralizes the market away from Facebook and Google, and so that in theory, anyone can serve an ad. If you're living in Montevideo, Uruguay, and you happen to be closer or have more data on someone who's looking to buy something, then you would be the one who would serve that ad to that person, not Facebook, not coming from Facebook, Argentina, or wherever it might come. So it's a cool way to open up this market and also have people be rewarded for investing in Xchng and in this platform. Okay. I don't know. I think I've lost my slides here. Let me go to this. Let's see. Sorry. Okay. It's working on here. Yeah, it's working. So, yeah, while we're getting this sorted out, let's just keep talking a little bit. So our focus, we have a very deep focus on the smart contract. So in advertising, there's a, can you run it for me, maybe? There's a one-page contract called an insertion order. And it's called an insertion order because newspapers, starting, who knows, thousands of years ago, used to the insertion is when they cut out an ad and like pasted it on the newspaper. So the advertising industry still runs on these mostly one-page insertion orders. So and track them through Excel spreadsheets. So we have a $200 billion industry where these transactions are happening millions per second, and they're still using the paper contracts to memorialize and as their legal contract. So what we've done is we've taken that contract and we've made it into a smart contract where it can be obviously much more dynamically manipulated or dynamically bought and sold. So if you need to, if I'm Coca-Cola and you're pick one, Pepsi, I don't know, and you want to trade a contract, last minute you want to trade the date in the contract or you want to trade some other aspect of it, you can do that very easily using our smart contract. Today, it's not easy to do. There is some trading of advertising slots today, but it's very burdensome, and it's definitely not easy to track those changes. So what we've done is we've taken that insertion order, we made it a smart contract, and prior to the transaction and post-transaction, we've created a ledger to track that contract all the way through so that the parties can see what's happening. And this industry, the first reaction, and again, back to the non-sexy, what can we do today? Whether it's an ad agency, I'm sure people here have had different dealings with the advertising industry, or at least you've watched Mad Men, I hope, a great show. There's a lot of waste and way too many people just moving contracts from one desk to the next. So if you don't think that this, a lot of this trading and financial, sort of creating a financial market out of advertising is going to happen short term, I get it, and you're probably right. But the amount of waste and cost that goes on in agencies and other ad tech companies is massive. Just people just passing a contract from this desk to that desk to whatever. So the contracts and the payments, both of which are massively inefficient in this industry, we have a very firm goal by the end of 2019 to make a significant impact in both of those. And our partners, who are some of them very large agencies, some large ad tech companies, are all interested in that. They say, we're all under pressure. We need to reduce our costs here, both head count and just the way we execute contracts and we execute payments. And so our short-term goal is really by the end of 2019 to make a significant impact on our partners' bottom line just by using smart contracts and the whole process of moving contracts through the supply chain. Whereas I say today, it's a piece of paper typically and an Excel spreadsheet. And the amount of passing around between everyone is mind-boggling. It's insane. In other industries, financial services, where I came from, or many other supply chain, that stopped a long time ago. In advertising, it still happens. And different groups, and the RFP to the PO, to the IO, to this, it's a nightmare. So our very firm and concrete goal, we are starting our SAFT next month. With the project, we've been in development a long time. We obviously have 200 people in our company, and a good number of those are working on this project. Our goal is to go live at the end of this year, and then by the end of 2019 to start having real benefits, showing real benefits at a minimum, the way these contracts are processed and the way payments and contracts flow in the digital advertising industry. So I had some other slides, but I don't want to go too long. I'd rather just take questions. And we have some other tech in there. I'm happy to send anyone a white paper. You can just read through it yourself. I think it's like 50 pages. And I'm happy to answer any other questions. So maybe from there, I'll just open it up to Q&A if anyone has any questions. Just come see me. After this, I'll send one to you. I think we still have an email wall for our white paper. I'm sorry about that. It's not really my choice. Our council, we're a bit more conservative because we have a very healthy ongoing business. So unlike other companies, I think we use there's a lot of sort of things we do, and we have competitors. So we have an email wall, but it's just xchng.com, Xchng. No vowels. We cut all the vowels out and make it easier for you guys. Xchng.io, and you send me your email, and then I'll send you our white paper. That's the best way. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, everyone.
All right, let's give them a hand. Nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I'll take that. Yes.